And hello again, dear ones. Rev Briz over here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is New Thought Today for May 11th, 2021. That weekly look at the New Thought philosophy and where that's taken us in the world and so on and so forth. Having one of those experiences here in the back room, folks, where sometimes there's red lights that go on and warning signals and all that craziness, and the end result is we're still here. Things are still happening. And the reality is most of you are not watching this live anyway. You're watching this at another time, and that's great. We love that. And we still want to engage with you, and we would still love to connect with you when it comes to the topics that we're talking about. So if you are watching live, please, hey, comment in the comment box. Or drop us an email, ministertalk@ntmedia.org. No matter when you're watching, we'll be happy to respond to your comments, even if you watch this a couple weeks from whenever today is. Oh, yeah, it's the 11th of May. So, yes. Welcome aboard. All right, Z. So we're talking earlier, and one of the big things that we've been looking at in this program is Sharif Abdullah's book, A World That Works for All. Yeah. And you had a great jumping off point for us today and a great idea. And I'd love for you to be able to share that with everybody a little bit, help them understand the principle. And I'm going to go in the background and try and fix some of what's going on with those red lights. If you want to share where our conversation starts, I'll be back in a minute.
All right. Well, so in Sharif Abdullah's book, creating a world that works for all, he gives an analogy of being on a ship, much like the Titanic story. And we're out in the ocean and it's dark and we hit an iceberg. And there are classes on the boat, as you know. There's the first class and then there's those in the boiler room. And so he gives this analogy of the different systems of the earth. You pick a system to look at how it's affected, but the people that are on the boat are in first class. They know we've hit the iceberg, but they're thinking, I can't leave all of this great material wealth I've gotten, as opposed to going and getting in the lifeboat. And the people in the boiler room are thinking, wow, this may be a chance for me to get some of this abundant material property. So as soon as these first class people get off, I'm going to go and get some first class treatment. Well, they're sitting there and they're thinking, well, it can't be that bad because those people aren't moving. And then those who are in the middle are thinking, well, obviously somebody is going to come by and rescue us. And what none of the parties and different classes on the boat know, or the ship know, is that the ship is about to explode, and none of that is going to matter. And so what they need to be trying to do is abandon the ship that they think has all this promise for whatever reason and whatever perspective they have. And that's kind of like where we are in the world. When we look at the different systems that we have, economic, education, housing, food distribution. The COVID has highlighted the cracks in the foundation of these systems, and the question becomes that Abdullah puts forth is, should we be trying to fix this ship in the middle of the ocean that just hit an iceberg, and is about to sink, or should we be trying to figure out how to create a new escape and a new system?
You can't unsink the Titanic.
No.
Even if we can now go take pictures of it.
Yes.
Okay. So, and I love that piece, right? We have to be willing to really let go of those old ways of being, and those, and it's not even those, like, it's not even necessarily that it doesn't work or it's not working. It's no, something catastrophic happened here.
Yes.
there is a hole in the whole front end of the ship is gone. You don't just say, "Oh, we'll get to it. We'll patch it up. It'll be fine when we get to port." We're not getting to port.
Yeah.
So the question sort of becomes, how bad's it got to get, right? Where is that breaking point? Using that word very specifically, right? This is a breaker mentality here that says we've got to hold on to that old way of being. That's that we'll go down no matter what, because this is the way it's always been. What's it going to take for us to have a new thought, to look at things differently? Oh, I don't know. When it comes to gun violence, let's say.
Yes. Yes. And there's been lots of gun violence in the first 4.5 months of this year,
Yeah.
which are kind of staggering when you think about it, right? You know,
I didn't look at the statistics for 2020. Did we just miss it in 2020? That's my question. It's like, because, which is possible, I guess, but yeah, the numbers.
Well, 2020 people were off the streets. I mean, everybody was in lockdown, so I'm sure those numbers went down a little bit.
Yeah.
Are not compared to this year, I would guess.
Right. Anyway, so tell the folks what we found, Z.
So we found that through Sunday, Mother's Day, there, in terms of mass shootings, in terms of counting them as 4 people being either injured or killed or more. So the 3s and 2s don't count.
Yep, minimum of 4 injuries.
There have been 203 mass shootings through May 9th, 2 days ago, Mother's Day. There have been 231 people killed and 772 people injured in a little over 4.5 months. And if I was going to try to tell you which days that occurred on, it would be easier for this year to tell you days that mass shootings have not happened, as opposed to trying to articulate when they happen.
Yeah. And that is something that we have. What does it have to be for everyone to stand up and say, okay, we got to take notice of this. We've got to do something about this. This is not just a small byproduct or a small casual byproduct of having a gun-toting, gun ownership culture. People are getting guns, it would seem, way too easy and are able to use them way too frequently. I did do a quick search while you were sharing on the 2020 numbers, and I'd have to go look at 2019 as well to get a real good feel. Right. But seems like 2020, yeah, we're well over pace to break what 2020 was, to surpass what 2020 was.
Right.
2020 was a total of 600 through the year.
Right.
We're on track to break that.
Oh yeah, we're at 200, and we're not even halfway through the year.
Right. That only really counts through the 9th of May, right? We've couple days back. So, and folks, part of what brings this up is we live in Colorado. There was another incident here in Colorado Springs, right? You may not have heard of it because it doesn't go to every market. It was a birthday party experience, and one young man with a gun, and he and 6 others are dead. He and 6 others are dead. Nobody really knows the whole story, and we may never know the whole story. So some of these things don't make the nightly news everywhere.
Right.
And as I look at this list in front of me, there's all kinds of places that I didn't know recently and over the past month or 2 months, and places it's like, okay, there and there. And May 1st was a tough day. Oh my God. There's a whole bunch of them on May 1st. Like there it was, May Day. It was a Saturday.
Yeah.
And
Seven mass shootings on that day alone. Six
now,
people killed, and more than that, 7 people killed, and maybe, I don't know, 30 or so injured.
And we're not here to make light of this, folks, right? We're not here to try to scare you. No. But we are here to say we believe it's time for America to start having a bigger conversation than yes, no, and a bigger conversation, a new way of thinking about what does it take to live a life in this culture? Is this the culture we really want to live in? And is this really the legacy we want to be leaving for, or not, for those in front of us?
Yeah, and quite frankly, to really take an examination to see if the precepts and foundational statements and all of that are still holding. I mean, I think I may have mentioned this last week, and if I didn't, I want to mention it real quick here. You know, we're looking at systems, whether they're scientific systems or educational systems or political systems, that were created by the Newtons and the Descartes and all these guys, you know, a few hundred years ago. They could never have imagined when they was putting the laws together and these principles together that India alone has 1.9 billion people.
Right. Exactly.
You know, they were looking at city states at best, right? They were mainly looking at just city towns, if you will, when they came up with these laws.
Or that someone could communicate with millions of people instantaneously.
Right.
That could have a message that is broadcast across the planet all in one platform instantaneously to millions and millions of people, and echoed and repeated again and again and again and ad nauseum. Yes, it is interesting in that nobody could imagine how we're here. Now we're here. How can we use this power that we've been given, that we've nurtured and created, and how can we use this to create something better? Again, right. It doesn't look like our current system of gun legislation is working, or gun regulation, control, whatever. What we have now doesn't seem to be working. Okay, yeah. There's one. We could spend hours probably looking at all the different areas, and we've been talking about this for a while now, Z, right? The things that are crumbling and we want to see rebuilt.
Right.
Education, healthcare, the service industries. Where do we want to dig in next? What was
I mean, let's just look at the homeless or the unhoused, right?
Right.
So you know, we look at numbers now of the homeless, right? And people and the under, not homeless, but the underhoused, right? Those who can't necessarily, they're in a place, but it's not necessarily the safest, and they can't afford something else. Well, you know, in places like Florida and in Colorado, I just saw a report the other day in both of those states, and I'm sure there are other places as well. Mm-hmm. People are buying houses at 20 and 30% above the asking price.
Right. Yep.
Right. So you have some of our participants in society that are able to go way beyond what seems like normal or rational. Mm-hmm. And then you have those who are just stuck in a permanent position. It seems like we know nothing. We know it's always shifting and changing, but they're stuck for the moment because they can't see their way out. Right. So how, you know, that's another area where we have to begin to rethink the policies and rethink the methodologies that we use to house people. How do we, you know, and we understand clearly that the old project idea does not work.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
And,
Because that just created bad situation for everybody in there.
yep. It's interesting. I remember a year ago, as we are just really kind of coming to grips with where the pandemic was going to take us, and coming into the late spring, early summer months a year ago, I saw numerous stories, and here in the Denver area, of innovative ideas on how to support homeless and the unhoused through this time as well. It would seem, however, my perception right now, my perspective right now, is much of that has gone out, is done, and whether that's the money ran out, or the desire ran out, or whether the unhoused ran out. There's so many different variations of what that can be. I can tell you, from one of the major intersections here in my area, not very far from where I live, one of the major highway intersections, I have watched from a year ago where it was empty of the unhoused and the homeless, and now it is back to a bus. It seems even more of a bustling metropolis area for panhandling and such than ever before. Now,
Yeah,
folks, we're not here to vilify anybody. We're not here to tell you what to do and what not to do. If you want to create care packages and hand them out of your car for those that are on the street corners, go for it. If you're comfortable giving money, I'm not going to tell you not to. A lot of people would tell you that that's not a smart thing to do. I would suggest not handing bottles of liquor out the window to anybody. I would suggest not empowering anybody, and what I've learned is most of the people out there, they want to be acknowledged that they're human, even if you're not going to put something in their hat, even if you're not going to put something in their basket, right?
and when you think about it, we looked at some numbers at the beginning, just trying to get a feel for the numbers, and we they got all kind of sources. The one that we looked at states that there are 151,000 people plus homeless in the state of California.
Yeah.
Now, that is just a few 10,000 numbers shorter than my whole city that I live in, the metro area,
right?
Denver metro area. So I can't even imagine looking at the size of my city, which is only like 190,000. So we're only like 40,000 short. But to think about, everybody here in this town is homeless. And that's one state.
That's one state, yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. And New York was second on that list, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And
New York was like 92,000.
So here we are at our question again. What's it going to take to get to a point where there is a committed, determined movement to change this, to have a new perception, a new concept? And I know that I'm not always the innovator on how to do things, but some of us have to be willing to say what's going on, so somebody can share with us what is going on. So if you're out there and you know what we don't know, if you know of the programs and the projects, now here in the Denver area, New Thought Media Network, we're in conversations with an organization, Urban Peak, to do some good in the youth and the teen unhoused population here in the Denver metro area and around and surrounding areas. And you're gonna have to find what's yours to do as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And given the trend, now we've seen a lot of companies saying, all right, they want their workers or employees back to work in the buildings. Yep. And so starting this month, corporations all over the globe, all over the country anyway, are beginning to have their workers come back on alternate weeks or some model, and you got to get your red light, green light, yellow light in terms of your susceptibility of catching or passing the virus. But
we're back to being 5-year-olds at work. Okay, red light. Hold on. Wait. Don't, no. Down that hallway. Go down that way. Simon says that way.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, right? And I understand we need that, right? Because we know that creativity, right? We're talking about these issues, and we're looking for creative ways to get beyond them. And I know that if I'm stuck to my own devices, I can be but so creative before I start rattling things around in my head. The same thing around in my head. So I need someone on the outside. How many times have we been looking for the keys and somebody walk up and say, "Oh, yeah, there they go right there."
Yep.
And you want to just like, right? but when we think about some of these buildings won't be fully occupied anymore.
Right.
Is there a way to transform some of them buildings? There's going to be some land that was used for something that is no longer used in that manner. Can we do mini housing or different things? And I mean, right. I've seen some of these tiny houses, 1,000-foot, or less at like $150,000 a pop, and they are gorgeous and they are functional. They're sustainable.
Yes.
I've seen some stuff where they've taken freight train cars and turned those into housing, insulating them there are a lot of different ideas that are there just for that one thing alone, housing. We haven't even talked about food and food distribution and education. I mean, one of the other things we looked at was education, and I'll just hold off of that for a minute so we can finish this one.
Yeah, we can go to education next. As you're sharing and as we're discussing this, I'm reminded of a thing I saw a couple of years ago now, and I'm gonna bet, well, it might not still be true, but at that time, there were more houses in foreclosure than estimated homeless in America.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that number is now, because we are going through a housing experience of some sort. There is a redistribution of wealth and housing and property happening that seems to be happening awfully quickly. And I am sure there are still a lot of empty places. And the numbers we were looking at right before the show, right, just over 500,000 estimated homeless on any given night in the United States. Obviously, that's a plus or minus number depending on conditions. And I know there's a solution. I know there is a vision of how something could work, where people are given that opportunity to restart their lives, to jumpstart their lives. There's a lot of this is so we're going to wander into the idea of universal basic income here, right, Z?
Mm-hmm.
Because that does seem to be one of the answers to support people in getting off the streets. And in 2019, I'd have to go look for this story, but I remember seeing it on the Good News Network a while back. So this was 2018-19. It was pre-pandemic, I believe. It was pre-pandemic, because Vancouver gave their homeless population a universal basic income. And the majority of them saved that money, invested that money, or utilized that money to get themselves off the street. There was a small population that didn't make it off the streets, but the vast majority of the people they were just given, here's your monthly income, and within 6 to 8 months, most of them were off the streets, and within within the year. Again, they were in the 90 percentiles, above, well high in the 90th percentiles, were off the streets.
Wow. Yeah. And because most people want to have that self-esteem and that image of themselves, of being successful, of being able to support and take care of themselves and their own. And you know, when we look at the housing problem and those that are unhoused, there are all kind of reasons that they go there. And we won't even go into how many people. It'd be a great statistic to figure out how many people are unhoused because they ran into some medical situation and they couldn't afford the medical bill and they foreclosed on their house and whatever, or lost their jobs. Because I'm looking here at a number. They're saying mid-level numbers or most likely outlook projections that the foreclosure activity will hit 336,000 houses in the second quarter of 2021. No volume. You're on mute.
Yes, there we are. Thank you. Those numbers make sense, right? That number to me, even though they don't match, and the estimated homeless is higher, we do know that a lot of that estimated homelessness are families, are teens, are that could easily work in a group housing situation or a co-housing situation. Yeah. So that right there, that inventory would be enough. Now, okay, banks shouldn't have to pay for it all, right? It shouldn't have to be all on the banks to do this. But it just, to me, says there has to be a way. If we can see the vision, there has to be a way to make those things work together.
Yeah, and because when you look at the number of households, like although California has 151,000 plus homeless, according to this source, they have 7,000 households that are homeless. But when you flip it to New York has 92,000 unhoused, but that represents 15,000 households or 15,000 families. So, when you look at if we could get decent housing for families, we can wipe out a very large part of the homelessness overnight, so to speak. Mm-hmm. By getting families in decent homes that will allow them to be sustained and not overpriced, and just a little tangential outside of that, even for the places that they live. Part of the challenge is if we dip our toe in healthcare pretty soon, real quick, the food that's available, the shopping malls and for food and produce and stuff, and fresh meats. A lot of those neighborhoods that are lower income, they don't have good sources. So inevitably, the health is going to go down because they can't get quality food and food services.
Yeah. The food islands, or the food deserts, excuse me, the places across the country where there just is not an option for healthy or sustainable nutrition and food. Does remind me. I don't know if you saw this story. The supermarket in Boulder that we were talking about a month ago with their mass shooting incident, unfortunately. That store is still closed. It's not It's not something you just reopen a couple of days later, even after the investigation is over. And it was full of food, so they donated it all to local shelters.
Nice.
And they took all of that food, over 900,000 meals is what it's estimated. Wow. That the food that was in that store at that time could be used to create over 900,000 meals, or will serve that equivalent to the homeless population in Boulder and the surrounding food banks radiating out from the Boulder area.
Nice.
Making a little bit of lemonade out of lemons on that one. But we have to have innovative ideas. We're going to have to look at every aspect of this in a different way.
Yeah. And you start looking, if we just look at education, right? I mean, because again, all these things are coupled. So if I got a family, right? Mm-hmm. And between, if we look at California and New York alone, we got over 200 and just say 70,000 homeless, with about 21,000 families out of work or out of housing. So if you can't get good housing, and and that means you're not getting good food and you're not maybe getting good medical care either, how is that going to affect the education? If the kid is going, he can't go because he's got a cold, right? Or he can't go and pay attention because he's hungry, or he overslept in the car and he's late.
Or
So now
bouncing
we
from
start
school
looking at how
district
it
to school
affects education.
district.
Say again.
Or bouncing from school district to school district.
Bouncing
And
from district to district.
there's
So
so
now the
many.
numbers go down.
Right. Yeah. So it's hard to get a job when you don't have a solid phone number. It's hard to afford a cell phone. Even a burner phone can be expensive if you're trying to get your life back together.
Yeah.
And just to say good afternoon, Terry. Good to see you, dear one. Guaranteed income is the way to go. And circling back on what we were saying just a few moments ago, yeah, absolutely. I think we're both in agreement with you there. I think the pandemic has proven that in some ways. I guess I don't have any numbers on this, folks, right? So this isn't necessarily a demonstrable fact or anything. But from my perspective, a lot of innovation has been driven during this pandemic because people have been able to recognize, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. I have an opportunity to sit here for a little while and contemplate and imagine and start something new and work towards something different and new. And part of that has been knowing that the social safety net of an unemployment has been there. Now that's not there for everybody, and I know that's not true for everybody out there, but there is a segment that has benefited from that, and I think that's a really good thing. I think it's really helped. So universal basic income, perhaps that's part of our, I think that is part of our future. Denver, and we'll move off from this here in a moment. Denver City did actually pass everything that they are moving forward with a grand experiment of universal basic income. The Denver Basic Income Project is a partnership, and this is from a web post. The Denver Basic Income Project is a partnership between local nonprofit service providers fighting homelessness, caring community members, and organizations providing funding and support. The organization has partnered with the University of Denver Center for Housing and Homeless Research, which will be running a randomized control trial to capture the results and contribute to the policy debate, advocating for universal basic income as an effective mechanism to fight poverty, homelessness, and many forms of inequality and injustice. And it continues. So there is a greater presentation and opportunity there. A little technical with us there. Hi, Z.
Hey, got bumped out there.
There we go. Now everything's caught up with the fact that you got bumped out there. So Denver's moving forward. There's a definitive scientific based trial that's happening. It's funded. It's moving forward to look at, can this really move the needle? I believe it can. If enough of us believe it can, then it can. And that's the idea. It's a new thought on how to help, how to support folks,
right,
getting back into society.
And I would submit it'll be interesting to track this number 2, 3, 5 years out from whenever we kind of officially say pandemic is we got it behind us now, and we can move forward in some sense of normalcy. I'm the innovation that's going to come of this, because people have had ways to look at things and says, what I got is not working. How do I innovate this? How do I move beyond this? Right. I think there's going to be a lot of camaraderie and a lot of innovation that comes out of this, that's going to begin to remake remake rather, this new world that we're looking for, where there's a place for everybody, there's a job for everybody, and the trades, and I'm hoping that this infrastructure bill comes, the exterior and the interior, where they're talking about roads and bridges, but also housing and healthcare and internet.
Job creation.
Create some job. All that's going to create jobs, no matter where you are in a so-called educational framework. Because when we looked at the numbers, we are way down in terms of scores. Now we know these tests don't show everything, but we were way down in terms of our math, reading, and science scores. Our average score was about 4.
Third.
Yeah, we were down. We were down about third. We were about 4 something, and the medium number is like 510, 515. We're like 480, 485.
Yeah. Well, America does need some rebuilding in a lot of perspectives, in a lot of ways. And I'm not here to blame anybody. We could.
Yes, we could.
If you listen to Mitch McConnell at all, or if you try to understand what Tucker Carlson is saying, well, there's a couple people we could blame for all of this. But that obstructionism is simply revealing a place where I believe the American public is calling for healing, calling for a reformation in our political system as well, and is calling for a new perspective on, okay, I don't know how it could have gotten much worse than 2020. And I don't want to contemplate that. And don't anybody out there contemplate that. We don't need to contemplate that. Nobody calling that crap in, right? But I agree with you. The sense of camaraderie that we've made it is going to continue to grow. Now, we're not there yet. And I tell you, there are times where I'm a little concerned at how easily it seems everybody is to rip off the mask and just go out and let's start partying again. I did hear a report yesterday. Some guy claims he saved himself probably about $50,000 by not going out to dinner, movies, bars, and concerts last year.
That's a whole nother piece.
Right? And he's like, I got money in the bank because I didn't go out for a year. Interesting perspective. What don't we need in our lives? What's it going to take for us to take a different look at where we're spending money and where we're placing value? And is it really worth $150 for a basketball jersey or a football jersey or a hockey jersey?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. The average, those average professional jerseys, they're like $70 a piece,
or a lot more,
or more. I'm being generous.
Yeah,
they probably started about 100, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Now if you're getting that, if you're a souvenir collector and you're going to try to get an autograph and put it in a frame, okay.
You can get the away jersey for $75. If you want the home jersey, it's more.
Because I get the jersey, I don't want to wear it to the game and get hot dog mustard all over it, or if I, it's like I get this $200,000 car. Where am I going to park that thing? Because if you touch my car, man, we got a challenge to get through here.
I live in Colorado. That thing don't go out of the garage from like May until July, man. No.
Right.
If there's a store within 1,000 miles, I don't take that.
And so, and I would love to have a Lamborghini and drive it, but not at $200,000. And I'm probably got a used one at that point. But the question becomes, how do we sustain this kind of lifestyle, livelihood, where that's what's being promoted? We're telling everybody on the bottom, which is the vast majority of the people, when you get to this, you are living, right. You have made it.
Right.
And they're looking at that saying, I don't know. I can't even afford rent. How am I going to get a $200,000 car? I got a family of 4.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we really have to begin, and let's just be real clear. I'm not, and I'm sure Reverend BRZ is not trying to take away any genius that someone brings to the table and not be rewarded for it. Most definitely.
Right.
But we have to find the threshold or the balancing point to where, you know, how do I tip the scale back the other way a little bit?
Right.
Where I'm so fearful I can't even go outside.
We're at a point, right? The world doesn't need another Jeff Bezos or another Bill Gates or another Bezos divorce or another Gates divorce. Melinda Gates automatically becomes a billionaire because of their announcement last week, and that's just the beginning. And they still got another $130 billion worth of assets to determine ownership of in this divorce. And what now? Let's give both of these couples, all of these people, some credit. They have all signed the pact that they're going to give away all their money. But, you know, it is the consciousness that drove us to the point that we even reached there. That there is even the amassing of that much wealth in one place, that they haven't been given that away long ago, that they haven't been given that back to their employees as a better than living wage. Why is Amazon at $15 an hour minimum? They should be at $50 an hour minimum with the money they make. Maybe, you know, I don't know. Some will argue that's socialism or whatever you want to call it, or just wrong. But would anybody be the lesser if Amazon guaranteed a minimum income, a minimum wage of, let's just double it and say $30 an hour? I think most people could actually make it on $30 an hour.
Yeah,
With the
you're getting
cost of
close.
living, you get, yeah, right. If you got a couple, a husband and wife, $30 an hour, you might make it for a family of 4. Yeah. So, all right, let's even be better. Let's go $50 an hour. We can do that. We can do that. I saw a meme recently. It said, if $15 an hour would crush your business model, you don't have a business model.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
And 30,000, you know, at a gross salary of 30,000, 5 days a week, you know, the equivalent of a whole year, because you take some vacation time, but you get paid. That would be 62.4 a year.
Right.
So if you got 2 people making that, you know, you got $125,000 family household income. You could do that.
It's pretty crazy where it feels like what I have witnessed in my 50 short plus years here on the planet, folks, because remember, I don't remember most of it. So there's a big part I don't witness any longer. But since I woke up and started to really witness and pay attention to what's going on in the world and what's going on in the universe, there is a great fluctuation, but there is also a great shift, I think, that we are in the midst of. And I'm not talking about the poles on the planet. That might be happening too, but that's another story. That's another episode. Today, what I think is shifting is a consciousness of the gluttony and the hoarding and the might makes right. And we're moving into more of a truly egalitarian perspective that I'm not going to make it if it's not for you, man. I'm not going to make it without you. And the truth is, it wouldn't be any fun trying to do it without you either.
Right.
Right. And we're all surrounding ourselves, and that's the idea. Surround yourself with the people that, hey, it's fun to wouldn't want to do it without you, and the truth is couldn't do it without you.
Yeah.
So what are we going to create?
And the pandemic has kind of shown that people, I saw something this morning, a news article said, people are clamoring now to have people over to the house for dinner, small groups, 5 to 7 people or whatever,
Right.
to keep it in that 7 to 10 range, right? And so, when I think back to when I was a little kid or when I was growing up, that's what happened. People went to people's houses and they had dinner together. Everybody bring a dish, potluck kind of thing. And the kids played games and the parents played cards and, but that kind of interaction created a great community.
Yeah.
It went beyond a neighborhood and went into a community then, because I knew who was there. I knew what the needs were. I knew the idiosyncrasies. So it opened up the door for other parents to kind of monitor and keep tabs and guide and direct other people's kids without them getting into a shootout,
Right.
because they understand, they know.
Yeah.
We've lost that.
We're getting to know our neighbors again.
Yeah.
And that is where it's going to start, right? That it's going to start with those over the fence conversations. It's going to start with, hey, man, I haven't seen you in forever. Why don't you come on over for a barbecue Sunday? And It's going to start with the socially distant cul-de-sac parties and block parties and neighborhood parties. Nothing crazy, but just enough to, we got innovative. I remember seeing it in the early parts of the pandemic. There were traveling musicians, right, that were going around parking in a cul-de-sac, and everybody come out in their driveways, and nobody was near anybody, but you could wave.
Yeah.
Again, sometimes it seems we've lost some of that innovation already, but it's still right there, and we can bring all of that wonderfulness back to another new experience.
And I just thought about something which would be a great idea. I'm gonna have to tell our neighborhood association a community barbecue, like not the ones where everybody goes to a place, but everybody bring out a grill and put their favorite stuff on the grill, and people just walk around sampling from the different houses and meeting people. Yeah, I got jerk chicken at my house. Oh, you got the barbecue burgers. Okay. And, really kind of mix it up would be interesting.
Right. Sounds like a neighborhood tailgate party.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody turn on some music, and who's got the biggest speakers? Point those suckers out the window and let's get this party started.
Yeah. But that we're gonna have to do that. That's what it's gonna take, and everybody's gonna have to step out their comfort zone a little bit, right, to get back to where we should be, or move to where we should be, not get back to where we should be.
No. There's an opportunity, I think, here again for that greater sense of trust, to get to know our neighbors, to get to know the people in our neighborhoods, to get to recognize that, to get back to some small businesses, now, we got time, I will pitch a little bit of a. I have had the worst luck with restaurants. Quality of service, portions. Restaurants are having a hard time finding good help. I think there's a whole new idea that needs to emerge for restaurants, because paying $70 for takeout with a tip for a family of 4 that doesn't feed your kids one night at dinner, that's tough. There's problems there, and I keep having these experiences where it's like, now we don't do that a lot, by the way, but you can't. But you treat yourself once, and then once a month we treat ourselves, and it's like the last 3-4 months running restaurants. So where am I willing to say, okay, now I'm not going to call any of them out. I'm not trying to make a big stink about this. I'm not on Yelp or any of those other things. But where can I hold a different consciousness that says there's a new way to be in the food industry and for hospitality and such? You've got an idea, I can tell.
Yeah. Because because one thing I've started doing more of it's cooking again, right? And we know it early on. People were doing all kind of bread baking and everything. And once that novelty wore off, now we're down to the reality. And the other day, I spent probably $8, right?
Okay.
I bought a zucchini. I bought an onion. I bought a yellow squash. I bought some mushrooms. I got a box of noodles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I got a couple of tomatoes and a small head of lettuce and a cucumber for like $8.
Nice.
And I came home. I had some tofu, so maybe it was $10. But I cooked. I did stir fry with the noodles and the salad for $10. Both me and my wife were able to eat for a couple of days
Mm-hmm.
off of $10.
Right. Yep.
Now, and that's in the spring where a lot of fresh vegetables and fruits and stuff aren't even available yet.
Mm. Yeah.
And doesn't take into account you getting a pot and sticking it in the background, or sticking something in the ground and growing some tomatoes or zucchini. We can bring and again, now we can invite people over. We can exchange dishes. I'm going to make this. You make something. Come on over. We'll sit in the backyard, have a glass of favorite beverage, and eat and talk and have fun at a very, very inexpensive cost.
Yes. Now is the time. Now is the time, folks. We have before us, I believe, one of the greatest opportunities to reform, to create the future of human interactions, of human relationship,
Mm-hmm.
of how humanity experiences life on the planet. And it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but it's not hard to go out on a Netflix or anywhere else and find a million visions of a dystopian future.
Yes.
It's really tough to go out and find a vision of a world that works for everyone.
Yes.
Of a world that works for all.
No doubt.
And don't get us wrong. We don't get us wrong here. We're not getting lost in the muck and the mire of what's happening in humanity. We're both very still fully committed to finding the avenues and the ways and the means and the events and the experiences and how we can impact and serve all of this. New Thought Media Network is partnering with a small group of communities around the Denver area to do just these kinds of projects, and you're going to be hearing more and more about that from us in the coming weeks. There's opportunities everywhere for us to come back out of this together.
Mm-hmm.
The Pfizer vaccine has now is FDA approved for youth between the ages of 12 and 16. We can vaccinate down to the age of 12 at this point, according to the FDA, with the Pfizer vaccine. We are taking the opportunity, I believe, to create, let's go, right? The world that works for all. And every hand is vital. Everybody is absolutely necessary, because no one of us, no 100 of us, no 1,000, no million of us can do it alone.
Yeah.
It's going to take everybody on the planet to be a part
of
it.
As they say, many hands make light work.
Yes.
So when nobody wants to be doing a whole lot of heavy work, let's just get a bunch of hands to get it done.
And many hands do light work. So, not to try to whitewash or lightwash, as they say, any of this, folks, but the truth is we can do this. It is going to take our hands getting dirty, but it is going to take us having a consciousness that says it's possible as well. Yeah. It's going to take us having a vision that says it's not only possible, but it's happening. And we're going to make this, and we're going to make it happen by showing up, not by forcing it, but by being willing, being able and willing to serve the emerging vision that that Sharif outlines, that so many great authors are outlining, and that we do not have the time to tell you about today.
But we will.
But we will. You keep coming back Tuesdays at 2 right here on the New Thought Media Network, and we'll keep sharing with you what we think are some new thoughts for the future, and bring you some new thoughts for how you can be a part of it all, how you can be part of the good.
Yeah.
Z, before we go, any final inspirations for the world out there?
For me, the final inspiration is many hands make light work. Let's figure out how to build that community again with all these hands, that everybody can be present and accounted for with a smile on their face.
Yes. All righty, folks. That's all we've got for this week. This is New Thought Today, every day, every Tuesday at 2. Until next time, peace.
Peace.